Lyra had always known her purpose. She was born on the gray world of Verax, a place of strict rules and quiet lives. On Verax, no one spoke of love, no one spoke of desire. Life followed a simple system. You were born, you trained, you were matched, you reproduced. Then you returned to work. That was all. Lyra stood in a long white hall, waiting her turn. Around her, other alien women stood in silence. Their eyes were calm, empty, and trained forward. No one moved. No one whispered. Emotion was considered weakness. A soft tone echoed through the hall. "Citizen Lyra, step forward." Lyra obeyed. She always did. A tall official looked down at a screen. "You are healthy. Your genetic value is acceptable. You will be assigned for reproduction within 2 cycles." Lyra nodded. Yes. She felt nothing. Or maybe she felt something, but she had no word for it. After the evaluation, Lyra returned to her small living unit. It was clean, perfect, cold. She sat on the edge of her sleep platform and stared at the wall. Her reflection stared back smooth. Skin, silver eyes, and a face trained to hide thought. That night, she dreamed. This was new. In the dream, someone held her hand. The touch was warm, gentle, and slow. There was no command. No schedule. Just choice. Lyra woke up confused and unsettled. Dreams were not normal. 2 days later, Lyra received a new assignment. She was to join a cultural exchange station on the edge of known space. The station hosted many species, including humans. Lyra had studied humans in training. They were emotional, unpredictable, and inefficient. But they were also curious. That worried the council. Lyra boarded the transport ship without question. As the ship moved through space, she watched stars pass by the window. For the first time, she wondered what it would feel like to choose a direction herself. When she arrived, the station felt different. It was louder, brighter, full of movement. Species of all kinds walked the halls, speaking freely, laughing, arguing. It felt chaotic. Lyra didn't like it, or maybe she did. Her escort stopped outside a meeting room. "Your partner will arrive shortly," the escort said before leaving. Lyra waited. The door opened. A human man stepped inside. He was taller than her, with dark hair and tired eyes. He wore a simple uniform and carried a small data pad. When he saw Lyra, he stopped walking. "Oh," he said. "Hi." Lyra stood straight. "I am Lyra, assigned cultural liaison." The human smiled slightly. "I'm Ethan, cultural officer." It's nice to meet you." He didn't stare at her body. He didn't scan her with equipment. He didn't speak like an official. That was strange. They sat across from each other at a table. Ethan placed the data pad down but didn't turn it on right away. "Before we start," he said, "is this okay?" "The meeting, I mean." Lyra blinked. "Okay?" "Yeah," he said. "Do you want to be here?" No one had ever asked her that before. Lyra hesitated. Her training offered no response for the question. "I was assigned." Ethan nodded slowly. "Got it. Well, if you ever need a break, just say so." He meant it. Lyra could tell. As the meeting continued, Ethan explained human customs, family, friendship, love. The words felt heavy, filled with meaning Lyra could not fully understand. "You don't have families?" Ethan asked carefully. "We are raised by the state," Lyra replied. "Attachment is discouraged." Ethan frowned, just a little. "That sounds lonely." Lyra tilted her head. "Lonely?" He smiled gently. "Never mind. We'll take it slow." Slow. Another strange word. After the meeting, Ethan walked her through the station. He pointed out places to eat, rest, and observe. When they reached her quarters, he stopped at the door. "This is you," he said. "If you need anything, I'm usually in Lab C." Lyra waited for him to leave, but he didn't. Ethan added, "Is it okay if I go now?" Lyra nodded. Yes. He smiled again and walked away. Lyra stood alone in her new room. It was larger than her unit on Varix, warmer. She sat down slowly, her mind racing. He had asked permission. Not once. Not twice. Many times. That night Lyra dreamed again. This time, she knew the face of the one holding her hand, and for the first time in her life, she wondered if her purpose could be more than duty. Lyra began to notice the silence first, not the silence of her people, cold, controlled, and empty, but a new kind of silence. The kind that existed between words. The kind that waited. Instead of commanded, it followed her whenever Ethan was near. On the third cycle of her assignment, Lyra stood beside Ethan in one of the station's observation corridors. Beyond the glass, space stretched endlessly, filled with distant stars. Lyra had seen space all her life, yet today it felt different, bigger, closer. Ethan leaned against the railing. "This is my favorite place on the station," he said. "Helps me think," Lyra nodded. "Thinking is encouraged here?" Ethan laughed softly. "Very much," she studied him. "Humans laughed often. Not for status. Not for dominance, just because. May I ask a question?" Lyra said. "Of course," Ethan replied without hesitation. She paused. On Varix, questions were dangerous. Questions led to inefficiency. Inefficiency led to correction. Why do humans touch each other so often? She asked. Ethan didn't answer right away. He looked thoughtful, not offended. "Well," he said slowly, "it depends. Sometimes it's comfort. Sometimes it's joy. Sometimes it's love." Lyra processed the words. "Touch is not required for reproduction." "No," Ethan agreed. "But reproduction isn't the only reason we touch." That answer stayed with her long after they parted ways. Later that day, Lyra observed humans in the common hall. Families ate together. Friends leaned close. A child held an elder's hand without fear or permission forms. No schedules. No assigned purpose. It made no sense. Yet something inside her chest felt tight as she watched. When she returned to her quarters, Lyra placed her hand against her own arm. Her skin was cool, familiar, empty. She remembered the dream. Warmth, slowness, choice. Her breathing changed slightly, and that alone frightened her. The next cycle, an incident occurred. A minor system failure caused a sudden power shift in Lyra's work sector. Lights flickered, gravity stuttered. Lyra lost balance and fell hard against a metal panel. Pain shot through her side. She had experienced injury before. Pain was expected. Endured. Ignored. Lyra pushed herself up, but her legs failed. "Lyra!" Ethan's voice cut through the noise. He ran toward her, stopping just short of touching her. "Can I help you?" he asked quickly. The question felt strange even now. "Yes," she said. Only then did he place his hand under her arm, steady and careful. His grip was firm but gentle, as if she were something fragile. That thought disturbed her more than the pain. Ethan guided her to a medical bench. He called for assistance, then stayed beside her while they waited. "You didn't have to stay," Lyra said. "I wanted to," he replied. "Wanted. Not assigned. Not required. Wanted. A medical unit arrived and scanned her injury. Minor damage, the unit reported. Rest recommended." When they were alone again, Ethan crouched to her eye level. "Are you okay?" Lyra searched for the correct answer. "I am." "Uncertain." He smiled softly. "That's allowed too, you know." She studied his face. There was concern there. Real concern. Not duty. Something inside her shifted. That night, Lyra could not rest. Her injury healed quickly, but her thoughts did not. She replayed the moment Ethan touched her arm. The way he waited for permission. The way his hands did not claim, but supported. On Varix, touch was mechanical, brief, silent. This had been different. Lyra opened her personal data, terminal and accessed restricted cultural files. She searched one word. Pleasure. The definition confused her. Positive emotional or physical sensation linked to comfort, joy, or connection. Connection. That word appeared again. Her heart rate increased slightly. She closed the file. The following day, Lyra found Ethan in lab. Say, I have another question, she said. Ethan set down his tools. Go ahead. If a human feels pleasure, she asked carefully, is it selfish? And his expression changed. Not shocked. Not amused. Thoughtful. Double quotes. No, he said. Not when it's shared. Not when it comes with care. Lyra took a slow step closer. And if one has never been allowed to feel it? Ethan met her eyes. Then they were denied something important. The words struck deeper than any injury. Denied. Lyra realized in that moment that her people had never taught her what it meant to want something for herself, and worse, they had taught her not to ask. Far above them, unseen, station monitoring systems recorded irregular emotional patterns in Lyra's behavior. On Varex, alerts were already forming. Change had been noticed. And change was never forgiven easily. Lyra began to understand something was wrong. Not wrong with the station. Not wrong with the human. Wrong with the rules she had lived by all her life. She noticed it in small moments. When Ethan entered a room, her focus shifted without command. When he spoke, she listened not because she had to, but because she wanted to. The difference between the two unsettled her. On Varex, desire was classified as malfunction. Yet, Lyra felt it growing. The warning arrived quietly. Her personal terminal flashed a soft red symbol. An encrypted message from the Varex Council. She did not open it at first. She already knew what it would say. Behavior deviation detected. Emotional irregularity under review. Her chest tightened. They were watching her. Lyra closed the terminal and went to work as usual. She followed schedules. She spoke only when required. But inside, something had already shifted beyond control. That cycle. Ethan invited her to assist with a human research demonstration. Something optional. Optional. Word felt dangerous. I can assign someone else, Ethan said, noticing her hesitation. Only if you want to, Lyra surprised herself. I want to. The lab was warm and softly lit. Ethan explained the experiment: human sensory response to sound and touch. Therapy. Lyra listened, but her attention stayed on his hands. Calm, steady, careful. Humans use touch to heal emotional stress, Ethan explained. Not just physical injury. Lyra frowned. Touch cannot heal emotion. Ethan smiled gently. We believe it can. He activated the system, and soft vibrations filled the room. A chair adjusted itself, designed to reduce anxiety through controlled pressure. Would you like to try? Ethan asked. Lyra hesitated. What is required? Nothing, he said. You can stop at any time. Stop at any time, she sat. Chair adjusted around her body, warm and slow. The sensation was unfamiliar. Her breathing changed. Her muscles relaxed against her will. This is inefficient, Lyra said. Though her voice was softer now, Ethan chuckled. Maybe, but it helps. For a moment, Lyra closed her eyes. When she opened them, Ethan was watching her, not with analysis but with concern. Are you okay? He asked. I feel safe, Lyra said quietly. The word shocked them both. Later that cycle, Lyra received the second message: immediate evaluation required. Return to Varex within 2 cycles. Her hands trembled. Return meant correction. Correction meant erasure. Lyra found Ethan in the observation corridor. The stars watched silently as she spoke. They are recalling me, she said. Ethan turned to her. Why? They believe I am damaged. Ethan's jaw tightened. You're not. You do not understand, Lyra said. On Varex, feeling is a threat. Ethan took a step closer, then stopped. Can I? He asked. Lyra nodded. His hand rested lightly over hers on the railing. Not holding, not claiming. Just there. The contact sent a wave through her body. Not pleasure alone, but recognition. I won't tell you what to do, Ethan said softly. But you're allowed to choose. Choose, that word again. Lyra looked. At their hands. At the human warmth against her skin. For the first time, she did not pull away. That night, Lyra's dreams changed. She was no longer standing still. She was walking beside someone. There was laughter. There was closeness. There was no fear. When she woke, her heart raced. She placed her hand where Ethan's had been. Warmth lingered. The following cycle. Station security arrived at her quarters. 2 Varick's officials stood outside, emotionless. Lyra, one said. You will comply with recall. Lyra looked past them down the corridor where Ethan stood, frozen. She had seconds. All her life she had obeyed. But now... Lyra straightened her. Posture. I request delay. The officials paused. Reason? Lyra's voice did not shake. I am not malfunctioning. I am learning. The silence that followed was dangerous. Above them, alarms did not sound, but across the stars, Varick's had marked her as unstable, and the council began preparing a response, one they believed would end. This human influence, they were wrong. The delay was granted, but not as mercy. Lyra knew that the moment the Varick's officials stepped back from her door, something far more dangerous had begun. On Varick's, delays were not kindness. They were preparation. Preparation for correction. The station returned to its usual rhythm, but Lyra felt the weight of unseen eyes everywhere. Every corridor camera, every system check, every quiet pause between breaths. She was being measured. Ethan felt it too. You don't have to keep working, he said one cycle later. I can file a request. They can't force you here. Lyra looked at him. They can force me anywhere. Ethan fell silent. They stood in the hydro garden, surrounded by soft light and alien plants that breathed gently in artificial air. Lyra liked this place. It reminded her that life could grow without command. I have reviewed human data, Lyra said suddenly. Ethan raised an eyebrow. That sounds serious. I searched the concept of intimacy, she continued. Not reproduction. Intimacy. Ethan didn't joke this time. He waited. Humans link intimacy with trust, Lyra said. With safety, with shared pleasure. Yes, Ethan said carefully. In my culture, intimacy is a transaction, Lyra said. Emotion is irrelevant. Ethan clenched his hands. That's not right. It is efficient, Lyra replied. But I no longer believe efficiency equals health. The word surprised her as much as him that evening. Lyra experienced fear for the first time, not the logical awareness of danger, but the sharp, tight fear that made her chest ache. She imagined returning to Varick's, the white halls, the evaluation rooms, the quiet machines that erased deviation. Her hand shook. Ethan noticed. He always did now. Lyra, he said softly. What are you afraid of? She hesitated. Truth felt heavier than silence. I am afraid, she said, that if I return, I will forget how this feels. Ethan stepped closer. How what feels? She placed her hand over her chest. This, he did not touch her. He did not rush. You won't forget, he said. Even if they try to make you. Her breathing slowed. The council's message arrived the next cycle. Final evaluation scheduled. Human presence prohibited. Lyra read it twice. No, Ethan said when she showed him. That's not acceptable. It is unavoidable, Lyra replied. But I will go. Ethan stared at her. Why? Because running would make them right, she said. I need them to see the difference. Ethan's voice lowered. And if they punish you, Lyra met his eyes. Then I will know I chose. Chose. The word no longer scared her. The evaluation chamber was sterile and bright. 3 council members appeared on the holographic display. Their faces were calm, empty. Lyra, one said, You have exhibited emotional instability. I have exhibited awareness, Lyra replied. A pause. Explain, the council demanded. Lyra spoke slowly. I was taught that intimacy exists only to produce offspring. Humans experience intimacy as connection, as pleasure shared freely, not forced. That concept is dangerous, the council replied. Dangerous to control. Lyra corrected. Silence fell. You have been influenced, the council said. By the human. Lyra did not deny it. Yes. You are compromised. Lyra lifted her chin. No, I am complete. Outside the chamber, Ethan waited. He did not know what she said. He did not know if he would ever see her again. When the doors opened and Lyra stepped out, he felt his breath catch. She was trembling, but she was standing. They will decide, Lyra said. Ethan reached out, then stopped. Can I? Lyra nodded. This time, she took his hand first. The cameras recorded it. The council saw it. The station systems flagged it. Across Verix, alarms finally sounded. The choice had been made, and the galaxy now faced a truth it had never planned for. A single human had not changed an alien woman. He had reminded her that she was alive. The punishment did not come at once. That was how Lyra knew it would be severe. On Verix, quick punishment was for mistakes. Slow punishment was for examples. Lyra was allowed to remain on the station, but under restriction. Her access was limited. Her movements tracked. Her communications monitored. Every step reminded her that freedom was fragile. Ethan felt it too. They're isolating you, he said quietly as they walked through a service corridor rarely used by others. Yes, Lyra replied. Isolation encouraged obedience. Ethan stopped. And is it working? Lyra looked at him. No. That answer frightened her and made her stronger. Other alien females began to notice. Lyra saw it in their eyes. The way they watched her speak, the way they paused when Ethan was near. Small changes. Dangerous changes. One of them, a technician named Sira, approached Lyra in the nutrient hall. Is it true? Sira whispered. That you refused a correction order? Lyra nodded. Yes, why? Sira asked. Lyra considered the question carefully. Because I learned that intimacy can be kind. Sira's eyes widened. Kind? Lyra placed a hand over her own chest. It made me feel real. Sira stepped back, shaken. By the next cycle. Rumors spread. The council responded swiftly. A broadcast echoed across the station. Transmitted from Verix. Human influence has resulted in emotional corruption. All cultural exchange programs involving humans are suspended. Ethan read the message twice. They're blaming us, he said. They are afraid, Lyra replied. Fear prefers blame. That night, Ethan was removed from his post. Station security escorted him to temporary quarters. No charges. No explanation. Just separation. Lyra felt something tear inside her. This pain had no physical source. No medical solution, yet it was the strongest sensation she had ever felt. She pressed her hand against the wall, steadying herself. So this was loss. Lyra demanded an audience with the council. It was granted, not because they respected her, but because they wanted witnesses. Your behavior has caused disorder, the council said. Alien females are questioning protocol. Lyra lifted her head. Questioning is not disorder. It is contagion, the council replied. Lyra's voice remained calm. Then why does truth spread so easily? Silence, you will return. To Verix, the council said. You will undergo full correction. No, Lyra replied. The word echoed louder than any alarm. No, she repeated. I will not. You belong to Verix, the council said. Lyra took a breath. I belong to myself. The council ended the transmission immediately. Orders were issued. Guards, move. Ethan learned of the decision too late. He ran through the corridors as alarms finally sounded, not loud, but controlled, precise. Lyra's already being escorted toward a transport bay. Lyra! Ethan shouted. She turned. For a moment, everything slowed. Ethan reached her, breathless. You don't have to do this alone. Lyra looked at him, not with fear, but clarity. I am not alone, she said. I was never alone. I simply did not know it. The guards hesitated. Something in her voice unsettled them. Lyra faced them calmly. I will walk, but not as property. Station personnel gathered. Humans, aliens, observers who had quietly watched change take shape. Sierra stepped forward, then another. Then another. We request review, Sarah said loudly. Of Varroc's Correction Authority. The guards froze. They had not prepared for numbers. They had not prepared for choice. The transport bay doors closed without Lyra inside. The council's authority had limits here, and for the first time, those limits were tested. Ethan stood beside Lyra, heart pounding. You just started something, he said. Lyra nodded. I know. She looked around at the gathered faces, confused, hopeful, afraid. For my people, Lyra said quietly, intimacy was duty without joy. For humans, it is connection without force. She met Ethan's eyes. I choose connection. Across the station, systems recorded a surge in emotional variance among non-human species. Across Varroc, panic spread. What they feared most was no longer possible to stop, because obedience had broken, and once broken, it never truly returned. The station did not return to normal. It couldn't. Too many eyes had opened. Lyra stood in the central forum, a wide circular hall meant for announcements and trade discussions. It was never meant for emotion, never meant for defiance. Yet now it was full humans, aliens, workers, observers standing closer than rules once allowed. They were waiting, for orders, for words. Lyra felt the weight of it press against her chest. Fear was there, yes, but it no longer ruled her. Fear had become something else. A signal, a reminder that the moment mattered. Ethan stood a short distance behind her. He said nothing. He did not guide her. He did not protect her. He trusted her. That trust was everything. Lyra stepped forward. My people taught me silence, she began. Her voice carried farther than she expected. They taught me that obedience is peace, that intimacy is duty, that pleasure is waste. Murmurs spread through the crowd. I believed this, Lyra continued, because I was never shown another way. She paused, then said the words that once would have ended her life. I was wrong. Across the forum, station sensors spiked, emotional variance, elevated stress, elevated hope. On Varroc's, council members watched in horror. Lyra lifted her hand, not in greeting, but in openness. A human did not force me to change, she said. He did not command me. He did not claim me. She glanced back at Ethan for a moment, then returned her gaze to the crowd. He asked. Lyra said simply. He waited. He cared. That sentence struck deeper than any speech, through him. Lyra went on. I learned that intimacy can be safe, that pleasure can be shared, that connection does not weaken us. Her voice steadied. It makes us more. A Varroc's transmission cut in, sharp and cold. Lyra, the council voice echoed, cease this broadcast immediately. Lyra did not stop. You fear this, she said, looking directly at the camera. Not because it is wrong, but because it cannot be controlled. The forum went silent. The council issued a final order. Detain Lyra. Terminate address. Security units moved. Humans stepped forward. Then others did too. Not blocking. Not attacking. Standing. I will go, Lyra said, calmly, raising her hand to stop them. But I will not be quiet. The guards hesitated again. This time, they lowered their weapons. Lyra turned to Ethan. I need to say one thing, she said softly. Ethan swallowed. You don't owe me. I want to, she replied. She faced him fully now. The crowd faded. The council vanished. There was only honesty. I do not understand all human emotions, Lyra said. But I know this, when I am near you, I feel whole. Ethan's eyes burned. He didn't speak. I choose you, Lyra said. Not as duty, not as obligation, as choice. She reached out. This time, she did not ask. He took her hand. The forum erupted not in noise, but in motion. Signals spiked. Messages spread. Across the station, across nearby systems, across species. The moment could not be erased. The council acted in panic. They cut diplomatic ties, issued sanctions, threatened withdrawal. No one listened. Too many had seen her speak. Too many had felt something shift inside themselves. On the station, new groups formed. Discussions began. Quiet questions became open conversations. What if? Intimacy isn't weakness. What if choice matters? What if we were never broken, just restricted? Lyra was placed under protective custody, not imprisonment. The station declared neutrality. Ethan was cleared. For the first time, Varix had lost control without a single weapon fired. That night, Lyra stood by the observation window again. Ethan joined her, close but not touching. You changed everything, he said quietly. Lyra shook her head. I only spoke, Ethan smiled. Sometimes that's enough. Lyra looked out at the stars. They no longer felt distant. For the first time, she did not wonder where she was allowed to go. She wondered where she wanted to go. And that question, simple, powerful, human, was more dangerous to the old galaxy than any war. The galaxy did not explode. There was no war. No fleets burning across the stars. No final battle to decide the future. Change arrived quietly, and that was why it could not be. Stop. Lyra stood before the new council chamber, not of Varix, but of many worlds. Humans sat beside aliens. Species that once avoided each other now shared space, questions, and ideas. The Varix delegation had returned, not as rulers, but as observers. They looked smaller than before. State your position. A neutral moderator said. Lyra stepped forward. Once, standing like this would have terrified her. Once, speaking freely would have ended her existence. Now, fear still lived inside her, but it no longer owned her. My people believed intimacy existed only to continue the species, Lyra said. We believed pleasure weakened discipline. We believed choice created chaos. She paused. We were wrong. A ripple moved through the chamber. Humans showed us something simple, Lyra continued. That connection creates strength. That care creates loyalty. That when intimacy is chosen, not forced, it builds societies that do not need fear to survive. The Varix elder spoke sharply. And what has this human way brought you? Lyra did not look at Ethan when she answered. It brought me peace, she said, and responsibility. Because now I know what we denied others. Silence followed. Then, slowly, another alien representative spoke. Our people feel this too, she said, questions we were never allowed to ask. Another voice joined, and us. Then another. The old order did not fall in one moment. It faded. Varix changed, not because it wanted to, but because it had no choice. Too many had seen Lyra. Too many had felt the truth. Correction facilities were closed for review. Emotional suppression protocols were paused. Reproduction contracts were rewritten. At first, the council called it temporary. It never was. Months later, Lyra walked through a garden on the station, now renamed the Open Accord. It was a place for dialogue, not control. Ethan walked beside her, hands brushing but not holding. You know, he said, smiling, humans will probably mess this up in some way. Lyra tilted her head. That is acceptable, he laughed. That's the most human thing you've ever said. Lyra stopped walking. She turned to face him fully. I want to be clear, she said. What I feel for you is not obligation. Not gratitude, not imitation. Ethan's smile softened. I know. It is desire, Lyra said, and trust. And pleasure not only of the body, but of the mind. Ethan took her hands gently. That's love, Lyra. She considered. The word. Yes, she said at last. That. They stood together as ships passed beyond the glass species, traveling freely, carrying ideas instead of orders. Lyra later recorded a message, not as a leader, not as a symbol, as herself. To those who were taught silence, she said into the recorder, your voice is not a flaw. To those taught duty without joy, you are not broken. She paused. A human once asked me a question no one had asked before, Lyra said. What do you want? Her eyes softened. That question changed my life. I offer it to you now. The message spread farther than any command ever had. Years later, historians would debate the moment the galaxy truly changed. Some would point to treaties, others to reforms, others to the fall of old councils, but those who were there knew the truth. Began when a single human chose kindness over control, when he asked permission instead of taking, when he treated intimacy as connection, not conquest. Humanity did not dominate the stars with power. They reshaped them with empathy. And Lyra, once born only for duty, stood among the stars as proof that pleasure, choice, and love were not weaknesses. They were the strongest forces the galaxy had ever known.